You're listening to a podcast of Master Your Finances with me, Kurt Baker, a certified financial planner professional. Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. on 1077thebronx.com. Good morning and welcome back to another edition of Master Your Finances, presented by Certified Wealth Management and Investment. I am Kurt Baker, a certified financial planner professional located in Princeton, New Jersey. I can be reached through our website, which is www.cwmi.us, or you can call me directly at 609-716-4700. This week, we are very pleased to have with us Melissa Companick, who has worked for the nonprofit sector for 8 years prior to joining the Better Business Bureau as the Associate Director 15 years ago. She was originally responsible for public relations through New Jersey and ultimately was promoted to acting president when the former president retired in 2007. Melissa was appointed president of the BBB, serving New Jersey in 2008, where she has served happily at the pleasure of the board of directors. She oversees a small but mighty team of 16 who, in 2018, processed over 39,000 complaints. And I'm glad I wasn't one of those, by the way. The number 8 in the North America, settled 85 arbitrations, challenged 449 misleading advertisements, closed 126 investigations, and accredited nearly 700 businesses in New Jersey. Thank you, Melissa, for coming with us today.
It is my pleasure. Thank you, Kurt.
And with you, we also have my new best friend at all the networking events for the Chamber, Odessa Santiago, who's a sales manager of the Better Business Bureau of New Jersey.
Hello.
Hello, Odessa. Thank you for joining us as well.
It's my pleasure.
So I guess we'll just start off. I'd like to get a little bit of back. I mean, people have known about the BBB forever as a name, but maybe you could give us some, because a lot of times we go, oh, I know what that is, but maybe we don't really know what that is. You want to give us a little bit of the history and the background of how the BBB came to being, and now that we know about it, and just kind of give us the background.
Absolutely. And I will say, anytime I give a presentation or I interact with people, my first question is, how many of you have heard of the Better Business Bureau, of BBB? And almost every hand in the room goes up. And then when I ask, how many of you know what we do? Crickets.
Unless somebody calls me.
That's right.
By the way.
Well, yes, and we'll get to that for
Hopefully
sure.
that doesn't happen.
Right. So there's a fancy way of saying it.
Right.
So we exist. We believe in an ethical marketplace where buyers and sellers trust each other.
I love that.
And we do this in a number of ways. So we build a community of trustworthy businesses. We set high ethical standards. We promote marketplace role models. And we denounce substandard marketplace behavior. So that's a very languid way of saying we're here to hopefully drive you to the good guys in the marketplace and keep you away from the bad guys. So we give out information and we provide dispute resolution services so that you can spend your money wisely with companies that you can trust.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, I remember hearing from, there's a very successful dealership up in North Jersey, and his motto was simply always do the right thing. Which I thought was kind of amazing, and we actually had an incident with my daughter lost her car prematurely. It was actually a car fire. It wasn't covered under warranty. It was one of these things. There was a defect, and they hadn't taken responsibility for it. Blah blah blah. He literally sold us the next car at no profit then whatsoever, including all the rebate. I mean, he literally gave us the car as low as he could possibly, because nobody else was going to do anything about it.
And that's great.
That's awesome.
I mean, I was first I'm blown away, because how many dealers do that kind of stuff? You're always worried about them, like, how they trying to squeeze that next 10 cents out of you.
Exactly.
You're like, oh, I just want a fair deal here, nice to me.
Exactly.
So I'm glad to see, because you guys, in my view, you're kind of like the original. I've been around a while, and so if I hate to say that, but I mean, to me, you're kind of the original. So do you remember? Do you know who came up with this idea? How this kind of formulated in the first place?
Sure.
As far as when did somebody say, hey, we need to kind of maybe somebody needs to stand up for the consumers and make sure the businesses are doing. I'm assuming it came from the consumer side, because businesses tend to, unfortunately, once they know what they're doing, they're kind of at an advantage over the consumer, because they know the business, whether it's a car dealership or an auto mechanic. Some of these ones that we know about, any business, we on the professional side automatically should know more, because this is what we do all day long.
Right.
And when you come in, especially with something that you do very rarely, like maybe buy an appliance, the person selling it to you knows a heck of a lot more about that transaction than you do coming in.
Right.
So you're trying to level that playing field a little bit. And I think that's important, because by the time you realize maybe something didn't go right, it's too late.
Right, you've spent your money and you may have a really tough time getting it back.
Right.
Sure. So really, the BBB has been around for over 100 years.
Oh, wow.
The first Better Business Bureau was started in 1912. So we're talking well over 100 years at this point. It was actually formed in Minnesota, was the very first one. And back in the day, it was actually formed by business owners, believe it or not.
Oh.
And we have a connection to a very well-known company today. Samuel Dobbs, who worked for the Coca-Cola Company, was instrumental in founding that. They believed at that time you had snake oil salesmen and things like that. So they believed at that time, well, I saw an ad, in the penny paper or whatever it is. Nobody believes advertising. It's all hoopla. It's all hocus pocus. So really, the BBB was formed so that people would look at advertising. We were actually originally called vigilance committees. And we would look at advertising. We wanted people to say, I want to look at an ad and not say, oh, bupkis, they're lying to me. I really can't believe anything. So that was really how we formed as the Better Business Bureau system. And today we have grown into about 100 BBBs across North America. And one of the foundations of what we offer today is still advertising review. So I have one person on my team here in New Jersey at the Better Business Bureau of New Jersey who does nothing but challenge advertisements all day long. And that can be on the radio, it can be online, it can be in a flyer that you receive in the mail, and I can get into my favorite ad that we ever got. Speaking of, you were talking about a dealership and how dealerships very often you'll get these mailers with a scratch off, hey,
right.
win a prize and see what you've won. You scratch it off and it says, oh, you've won $10,000, or a brand new car, and then you go to turn it in, and there's 14 other things that you have to do in order to quote unquote qualify for this. So these are the types of things that we're looking for and trying to get companies to correct when we find it's a violation of our BBB Code of Advertising. So that is the foundation of the BBB. So
you guys created kind of that first universal code because I think it's interesting, only because I've been in a number of financial businesses. And so the one that I have been, both, financial services is one that's we're constantly tweaking it. But the one that was kind of the Wild West, in my opinion, when I first started 30-something years ago, almost 35 years ago, was the mortgage business. And when I first got involved in that, the disclosure was basically nothing.
Right.
It was really nothing, and there was a lot. And it used to drive me bananas because people would say things, advertise things, and you would send it to the Department of Banking and Insurance, and they're like, "Well, there's nothing we can do about it," because there was no regulations.
Right.
There was no rule about saying, "Hey, you can get." I remember one that was product one. Oh, you're going to get a 30-year 1% mortgage rate.
Right.
Well,
in big bold letters, right?
Yeah, big bold letters. 1% 30-year fixed rate mortgage is what it would say, and it was fixed for 1 month. It was a 30. If you read it different, depending on how you read it, because it was a monthly variable mortgage, and it have an introductory rate for like 1 to 3 months, and then it would jump up to like 8 or 9%, and they would go off, and it would float based on what that was. Now, it wasn't. So that was totally misrepresented, and people would not know, and the payment was kept artificially low. So they didn't even realize, because it was locked in at that was the payment rate. So people didn't even realize for a year that their payment was going to go up.
Right.
Because most people don't pay attention to this stuff. So that used to drive me bananas because you literally, as another competitor, I have a rate at 6%, and they have a
Which
rate
is
at
honest
1%.
and forthright.
Where is that person going to go?
Right. And that
looking at the ads, right?
And we would absolutely say today that is a violation of our BBB Code of Advertising, because you can't represent one thing and even use a little asterisk and then completely change the meaning
great, aren't they?
of not really of,
not in our world.
of what you're actually advertising. And that is why we are here. We are about truth in advertising, honesty between the business and the consumer, so that businesses thrive in New Jersey and consumers feel confident making a purchase, from companies here.
Yeah, no, it's extremely important. So we want to just continue on with that. So they started it was actually businesses that started. So these are ethical business owners that probably were seeing something similar to what I was seeing. Like, hey, this is not fair.
And we can do better.
That I'm being honest and I'm telling people exactly what's going on, like to the nth degree, because I don't want them calling me a month or 2 months from now because I want to get referrals. Most legitimate business owners live off the referral, whether you're a restaurant or whether you're selling a car. It doesn't matter. That repeat business is what makes businesses huge.
Right. People want to trust you.
Exactly.
Right.
So I think it's great. I'm glad to hear that it came from actual business owners. So That was 1912,
1912, yes.
which is a long time ago. That's
Yeah,
fantastic.
so we are an institution in America and North America. Absolutely.
So what evolutions have you gone through the years? I know things have changed since 1912.
Right.
I mean, we had the Roaring '20s, we had the Depression,
Right.
we had.
Well, we're back to the Roaring '20s now, right?
Now hopefully, it don't end the same way. That's all I'm
Yes.
thinking.
So yes, we're doing everything that we can to keep up
Right.
with the marketplace needs. So back in the day, it would be 1912, even before let's fast forward a little bit. You would call in and ask for information on a company. Have you had any
Right.
complaints about this business? And be like, yep, we've had one, and that's it.
Okay.
Everything was on the phone or in writing. Certainly now we have a very big online presence. Our website gets millions of hits every month, and that's specifically just with New Jersey consumers. All of our business profiles, we have information on companies online. Those are our business profiles. I'm sure we'll get into that. We have our ratings on our businesses. We have ratings A+ through F, just like through school.
Right.
You'd be amazed how many people get confused about whether an A+ is good and an F is bad.
Fantastic.
We publish our complaints. You can see the details of
Right.
complaints, what kind of issues are our customers having with companies, and you can also see customer reviews.
Wow, that's a lot. So, Melissa, that's a lot to go through. So, we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to kind of go through all the different things that the BB does and why it's important and why consumers and businesses alike should pay attention. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're listening to Master Your Finances. I'm Kurt Baker here with Melissa Companick and from the BBB, and we're talking about in the first segment, talking a little bit about the history of the Better Business Bureau and how it started way back in 1912 from a business community that really was getting probably tired of other fraudsters coming in and trying to sell against them, and they were trustworthy. So they wanted to
Absolutely.
establish a kind of a trustworthy network to help the consumers be able to pick businesses that were legitimate and we're going to actually do what they say they're going to do.
You got it.
Right?
That's our motto today. Start with trust.
I love it. Trust is fantastic. That's very important because that's what all businesses should be striving for that.
Absolutely. It's what consumers want. It's what businesses should deliver.
Yeah, it takes longer though. That's the
It
thing.
takes effort.
Right?
It's not always easy.
Oh, no. It's definitely no. Always doing the right thing is not always easy, but ultimately it pays off.
Correct.
And sometimes newer business owners don't seem to see that necessarily all the time.
Right.
And I know I consult with them too, and you have to, not on this level, but it's kind of like, you got to set it up in a way that your consumers are going to want to keep coming back to you.
Right.
Right. It has to
yes.
it has to make sense, and they'll understand the value, so to speak.
Keeps your business thriving.
Yeah, absolutely. So go on. Want to go through some because there's been a lot of changes since 1912.
Right.
I'm assuming
the foundation is the same, believe
the
it or
web
not.
page probably wasn't the same in 1912.
A
I'm
little
assuming
slower,
So,
a little less horsepower back then.
so nowadays, you mentioned some of them, right? So now you have like a web presence, right?
Absolutely,
So
BBB.org.
kind of walk through some of the things that you do, some of the tools out there from the consumer side, and then maybe from the business side. How does that all work from the consumer side, and
Right.
then how does that?
And it all kind of
Yep,
blends together.
yep,
And
yep.
this is really where where it really talks about using our website to your advantage, so that you can be smart with your money. Because our motto is you want to investigate before you invest.
Okay.
So if you visit bbb.org, we have profiles on over 70,000 businesses across the state of New Jersey.
Wow.
That's by no means every business that's here in the state. There's actually over 230 businesses. So we'll create a profile on a business if they voluntarily register with us, if they want to put their information out there and say, hey, I'm trustworthy. If you're looking for me, here's where you can find me. You can get my information. You can get my rating. Or if a customer has a complaint or a review about a business, we'll create a profile on that company.
Okay.
And what we talk about, like I said, we give a letter grade rating. So it's A+ through F.
Okay.
We feel that's fairly simple. It's not always.
Most of us went to school.
But
It's an old
correct.
system.
That's what I refer you back to. If your kid was getting an F in school, you wouldn't be thrilled with it.
Probably
you wouldn't really
not.
tolerate it. So you shouldn't tolerate, working with an F-rated
Right.
business. So we'll tell you the main factors that we feel either raises
Okay.
or lowers the rating. Okay, and very often complaints is really the number one part of that. It's a really, really key part of that. So, as we were saying, every business, they want to satisfy their customers. They want to do the right thing. We're living in an age where people are becoming more and more dissatisfied over, pretty much kind of smaller and smaller things sometimes.
Okay.
So that, they want a venue just either to vent or, well, I'm owed my, whatever back from my transaction. So you can read the complaints. We feel this is beneficial so that you can see what kind of issues there are against a business, and is there any type of pattern that we're seeing.
Right.
You use this information as a consumer to say, okay, I'm going to compare. I have 3 companies I'm going to look at. I want to compare them. We want you as the BBB to work with a BBB accredited business, and Odessa will get into that
right.
just probably in a little bit down the road.
Take a test.
No, you have to meet our very high standards,
Yes.
our
go.
code
Yes.
of business practices and our accreditation standards. So we want you to work with an accredited business, or certainly a company that has a good rating.
Right.
Companies that are marginable. Like I said, we want to guide you to the good guys, and we want to avoid you having a problem. So
Right.
we realize sometimes problems will happen, but what you want to look at is, does a business actually resolve the issue? So just because there's a complaint, it's not the worst thing in the world.
Everybody makes mistakes.
Right.
Yeah,
And
how do
but
you
what
deal
we
with
want to
it?
do,
Right.
is own up to it, recognize
Yep.
our mistake, and correct it as quickly as you can. Anybody who's doing that. So we want people to find those good companies, again, so businesses stay in New Jersey.
Okay, so I'm envisioning 2 things. One, you got a newer business. Let's say I'm just starting my business up.
Yeah, we got a lot of those.
Put my flag out, and I'm like, how do I get a rating? Right.
Right.
I mean, you don't really know what I'm doing. I've only been in business for maybe a month or 2.
Exactly. And that's one of our standards, actually. So when
Okay.
you register with us, and we encourage everybody to do that,
Okay.
register with us as soon as possible. It'll be 6 months before BBB
Okay.
will give you a rating.
Gotcha.
So that way you have some kind of established history in the
Right.
marketplace. So if problems come up right away, we'll know about them, or sometimes, we'll have the rating and then say, okay, now things are kind of in full swing for them. Maybe they got overloaded. Maybe they didn't plan for something. Maybe
Right.
they didn't order. They don't have enough stock for what they advertised or something like that. So it will be 6 months before you get a rating from BBB on our website.
So we know at least it's open at least 6 months if they have a rating.
Correct.
Okay, there you go. Hey, I just had to figure that out, right? So assuming there's no complaints, then hopefully you get a good rating at that point, correct? Or no?
Well,
Or is there
it
more
won't
to
be.
it than
You're
that?
not an automatic A+, which is what every
okay.
business owner wants. Every business
gotcha.
owner that reaches out, hey, I'm great. I've been here. I work so hard. I'll do anything for my customers, and
Right.
certainly all that's
Okay.
true. But we have a formula that's associated with
All
our
right.
ratings. And so when you first start, you're going to be an A- is when you first
Gotcha.
start out. So again, because that just because you're 6 months, can we compare you to a company that's been in business for 10 years necessarily?
Right.
There's kind of a big gap
That's why
there.
I asked. I didn't know how as a consumer going in, but if
Right.
it's a relatively new business in any mind, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad business.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah. And we'll
you know, so-
explain, our
Okay.
profiles will explain in there and say, okay, what's the reason for this rating? And it'll say the time in business for the company, which is
so it's
which is
clear.
less important, really,
Sure.
than unanswered complaints, unresolved complaints. That's really what consumers want to look out for, and that's what businesses want to avoid. A lot of people, when you get contact from the BBB as a business owner, if we do get a complaint about you, a lot of people, it's just the BBB. They might throw it away. They might
Right.
ignore the email that we're sending. But really, if we're sending you something, we need you to respond to it
Okay.
as a business owner, and that's beneficial for you because wouldn't you want to know if there's an issue that somebody's unhappy out there,
Right.
and hopefully try and take care of it.
Okay.
So if the BBB's contacting you, sending you a letter, it generally, yes, it means we need you to send us something back to address this issue, and then we do report on that to the public.
Okay,
So it's your
that's
choice.
where the explanation, because I'm envisioning two complaints, right? A legitimate one, and somebody just like had a bad day, or maybe they didn't understand, or they didn't read. I watched Judge Judy, right? And you're like, what do you mean? Oh, I just assumed they were gonna. Well, you didn't read anything,
Right.
So you can't like. I mean, consumers have to take some responsibility to understand what's going to happen. So
both have responsibility.
So I think that's important. I guess that's part of the explanation process, right? So if they
And we qualify our
literally paid no
complaints.
attention to what was happening, and the business owner was very clear on what was going to happen, they're like, "Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know the car was going to have payments if I took out a loan." Right. I mean, I don't know. I'm just, things
We've
like
heard
that.
a lot of things at
Yeah,
the
yeah,
BBB
yeah,
for
so-
sure, but we do qualify our complaints when they
Okay.
come in. So just
Okay.
because you're angry about something, it doesn't mean it's an issue that we can
Gotcha.
take necessarily.
Oh, so you do a little bit of screening. So if
Yes,
it doesn't look like it's
there
really,
are some things we
they're just
can
upset.
do. Right. So if somebody just said, well, this service rep was very rude to me on the telephone.
Right.
I think they should be fired, because they were just
Okay.
nasty with me. So that's not something that the BBB can handle. We'll process it. We'll send it to the company
Right.
just to say, hey, we're making you aware of this. It's what we
Gotcha.
call letter of experience. It's informational.
Okay.
To say
Well,
maybe
that's
you want to
important,
know,
too.
maybe this rep needs some new
Right.
training, but it's not what we call a marketplace transaction. So
Yeah.
that's what we take complaints about. Really, is marketplace transactions between a business and a consumer, or even business to business sometimes.
No, that is important because I've called this, larger companies where you knew the rep wasn't trained because literally every time you asked a question, they were making the situation worse. you're like, you're supposed to be de-escalating things and like helping. If you can't help, you need to,
Not
you know what
accusing,
I mean?
right.
Sometimes people just don't understand the steps you're supposed to really take to get the consumer to where they want to be. Because they really
Right.
have one thing on their mind when they're calling usually, right? There's my issue. Can you
Right,
help
I'm
me out?
angry and, or,
About,
I need
something
help
didn't
with
go
something.
right. I may not be angry, but by the time you're done, you're like,
Well, they're certainly angry by the time they come to
now
us.
I am angry. But that's important. So if the business owner understands, hey, maybe somebody, so they'll know who it was that, hey, like, Lucy Ann, whatever, didn't like handle me well. And
Right.
then they can go back and, because most
We
companies,
hope. That's
most
our intent.
companies can go back and search because they keep records on their reps usually.
Right.
Right,
So,
yeah.
so that's our intent. So
Excellent.
it's a free venue for a consumer to try and get dispute resolution.
Okay.
And on the business, it's to say, okay, somebody's unhappy out there. We hate to be the ones to have to inform you about this, but
Right.
wouldn't you want to know and address it? And instead of having them be a dissatisfied customer, do something to resolve the issue. Doesn't have to always be what the consumer requests, because certainly we get people. Again, they were mean to me, and I want $1 million for my pain and suffering. So it's you don't have to go to that lengths, but
It was a Snickers
can you
bar.
make some exactly? Can you make some kind of offer? A gesture of goodwill. And really, we want businesses to make their best faith effort to resolve any issue that we bring to
Yeah.
their attention,
And
that
I-
benefits you, and it benefits your rating and your profile with the BBB, and that's what the public sees.
Sure. No, I agree 100%. So you want to get the profile as high as you can. So how long you've been in business, keeping the complaints down, responding to the complaints.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
And then getting kind of an explanation. So you guys will go back and forth, and then you make resolution. And I'm going to guess, you can tell me, that most businesses, if it's a legitimate complaint, want to resolve it.
We do. Yeah, we get resolution
I
in
would
about
think.
over 80% of the complaints
Okay.
that we
'cause I
send
would-
to a business.
A legitimate business is like, I don't want somebody leaving unhappy.
Correct. Yeah,
You really don't.
absolutely. And sometimes it is very contentious between the parties,
Right.
especially if you're dealing with a contractor, you're dealing with a major home
Oh,
renovation.
contractors. I didn't even think of that one. You're
Where
right.
a lot of money's involved, and that's where kind of a high percentage of our complaints are in the service type of industry,
Sure.
plumbers, contractors, roofers, things like that. When you're dealing with a lot of money, those issues can get pretty heated.
Yeah, the one thing, to me, contractors don't often put things in writing the way they should, explained. I mean, this has been my personal experience with not individually, but just seeing things that happen. Is they tend to be really good at maybe putting up
The workmanship.
the sheetrock, but they're not real good at explaining, like, here's what I'm going to do and here's what's going to cost you, and if this doesn't work, here's what's going to happen next. Because we hired somebody to do like photography once, and I go, well, I'm not going to pay you this money without explaining exactly what we're
I'm getting for it.
We talked about it, but it needs to be on this piece of paper somewhere.
Right.
You're gonna
And
give me-
that's a fair request.
You're going
That
to give
should
me,
be.
so many photos, so many videos, so many this, so many that. I've said, you're just saying, give me this money. I'm like, for what?
Right. And that you really
You have
should
to
never
write
sign a blank contract.
You have to write it all down. I mean,
Right.
And to me, that's not me being a nudge. It's me being, let's be clear.
Right.
Like,
And because if there
here's
is
what
an
I'm
issue,
buying, here's what you're giving me. And I felt like I was, in a lot of ways, I feel like I'm helping to protect them, because if you don't want to do these items for this price, then let's have a conversation, because this is my understanding what you're going to do.
right, let's do it beforehand.
And if it's the wrong price, they go, oh, no, if we're going to do 4 videos, it's going to be X, not Y.
Right.
Oh, okay, let's talk about that, right?
Yeah.
So you really want to, and this is,
It's not
I think,
demanding
true.
necessarily.
I think
It's
this
clear.
is true of anybody. Anytime you're exchanging money, I think writing down specifically what you're agreeing to, I think minimizes it, because then you can kind of go back to that.
You're absolutely right, Kurt. We say
say,
all the
hey.
time. Yeah, you should never sign a blank contract. It really doesn't
Right.
matter what it's
blank.
for.
That's even worse.
With 2 words. It really
Right.
should spell out the scope of work,
Okay.
what the payment, if you're not paying
Right.
all up front, what the payments are going to be, when they're due, what percentage. Generally we say don't pay 100% up front. Really, that's more for home improvement
Right.
type of
Yeah.
contracts.
You need a little bit of a
you'll,
holdback.
third deposit, and then the third
True.
when it's a third way through, and then if you have any type of inspection that needs to be done when
Yeah.
the work's completed, once that's done and passed, then you make the final
And
payment.
no cash payments, all right? You got to
A
document
little
everything.
difficult to get your money back if you pay cash.
Have some way to document what you gave somebody.
Exactly.
Because otherwise you have a problem. We've been listening to Master Your Finances, and we're going to be right back. Welcome back. You're listening to Master Your Finances, and we're talking to Melissa about the Better Business Bureau. And we went through kind of some of the ratings and things that you have in the online service, and how like a new business doesn't get a rating until 6 months and things like that.
Right.
And then we got into a little bit about, I guess, when complaints come up, which businesses don't like complaints, but things happen. We all make mistakes. And I think really the key to a successful business is really, how do you manage the complaints and how do you learn from them, right?
Correct.
Because if you make an error, that's one thing. But you need to take that opportunity to learn from your error and make that person as happy as you possibly can. So how does that whole process work? So I don't know. Let's take an example. Let's say, I don't know, I had a room put on my house and all of a sudden maybe the window's not quite the way it's supposed to be. And now I paid them and I'm upset because they said they were going to fix it, but they didn't fix it. They never came back and my money's gone and my window's still crooked. And it won't open and shut the way it was supposed to. Right? So
good example.
Now I'm upset, right?
Correct.
And my contractor's not returning my calls because they're now like 3 or 4 jobs down the road. And like, I got my money and, that's it. I'm done.
Right.
I don't want to talk to you anymore. So what do I do?
So this is exactly where the BBB comes in, because this is a pillar of what, the foundation of what we offer, which is dispute resolution. And it is a free service, and it's free to both sides, for the business, for the consumer. So you would come to bbb.org. You would fill out our complaint form. We can also mail you one if you're very old school. We certainly can service you that way as well.
Okay.
So what you're going to do is describe. You're going to describe what your issue is. You're going to summarize it exactly like you did.
Sure.
Tell us what you want the business to do. Whether I want my window repaired or I want a refund so that I can hire somebody else, whatever it might be. You submit it to the BBB. We will qualify it. I think I mentioned that before. Just to we don't take every issue, but this is a very typical issue that we would, particularly if you had some kind of warranty on the work.
Right.
A lot of contractors will give you 1 year, kind of labor warranty, things like that.
Right.
Or even if it's extended beyond that. What I will say is typically the issue has to have arisen within the past year. We handle issues that happen within about the past year. Yep.
Okay.
But then we will send it to the business. Once we qualify it and we determine that it's something that we can take and try to assist with, then we will send it to the business, and they will have their opportunity to present their side of the story. So if they have a different take and said, well, this consumer was very difficult, very demanding, wanted 14 change requests while we were in the middle of it.
I kept moving the window around the room.
Exactly. It's amazing sometimes when you get the other side of the story, too.
Sure.
We're getting half of it when the complaint comes in. So give the business, we give them about 30 days to answer.
Okay.
And when we get that, we will send it to you as the consumer and give you an opportunity to let us know if you're satisfied with what they've explained.
Okay.
And if you're not, then you come back to us again and say, well, they're true on this, but I disagree with what they've said here. Excuse me. And we'll go through, another round and then see, will the business make its very best faith effort to try and resolve that dispute? So these are the good companies that actually answer it. So generally, if that happens, we send it to you. We can say, okay, here's what they've offered, and if you accept, good, then the case is resolved. And that's exactly what the BBB is here for, resolving those complaints. Not every business is required to answer a complaint from the BBB. Our accredited businesses, who we vet against our standards, that is one of the commitments that they make to the BBB, is that if we get a complaint about your business, you will make your very best faith effort to resolve it, up to including arbitration, if we recommend that we have to arbitrate this complaint. But if a company is not accredited, we're really asking them to do the right thing. We're making them aware of an issue. We're saying we're giving you the opportunity to make it right, or again, explain your side of the story. If you feel like they're not, do what they're saying they want, then please explain it and give us evidence to show that. But if they don't, then that becomes an unanswered complaint on their profile, and that will lower their BBB rating.
Okay.
So you could literally, with BBB, you could be an A+ company. We could have no complaints on you. We could get one complaint. We could send it to you, window contractor. If you ignore that complaint, we close it out as unanswered. You could drop from an A+ to a B to a C, possibly to an F overnight. So our ratings are fluid. The ratings aren't set. So it's important. You can check back often. Again,
now, if I don't answer this thing, will you let me know? Hey, by the way, your rating just dropped.
We don't say that part. We do say it's closing it out unanswered.
Right.
It can impact.
But are they aware of the
your
impact?
profile.
I mean, in some of that communication, you say, "Hey, look, if you don't answer this may affect your rating."
We do.
Yeah, so they're aware
let them
of that.
know. Yeah, and it's going to be published for other people to see.
Oh wow! Then they should respond for sure.
So the public at large can go online and will most likely be able to see what this consumer complained about, and that there was no response at all from the company. So it really behooves every company. Again, when we're reaching out to you, we really need you to answer us.
Sure. Well, nothing upsets somebody worse, whether you're a business or an individual, when somebody simply doesn't answer you.
Right. It's great to be ignored.
Yeah. People do not want to be ignored. That's probably worse than anything, right? I mean, it's better to say no than to just ignore it.
Right. And,
Right.
So I realize it takes time. And people say, listen, I'm in my truck all day.
Sure.
I'm on job sites all day. I don't have an assistant. I'm a one person.
So when I
sole
respond
proprietor.
as a business, am I is it paper? Because I mean, can I do it electronically
Yeah,
as well?
we try and do everything electronically.
Oh, that's easy.
It's
Most
generally
people
going
can
to
do
be an
that.
email.
Sure.
You respond right
Okay.
through our portal,
Okay.
and but you can email us, you can fax us, you can write
Okay.
us. We accept all kinds. It just
Gotcha.
has to be in writing. So
Got
people
ya.
might call up. What they want to do a lot of times is, well, let me tell you what happened. And we'll say, listen, we're happy to listen, but we need you to put it down in writing in your own words, because our job as the BBB is actually to remain neutral between the consumer and the business. So we
Right.
can't look like we're taking sides. So a lot of people think, well, you're here to protect the consumer, and that is a piece of what we do, but we're also here to promote the business community, and that's a part
Yeah.
of what we do. So we're not really here. We're just here to keep the lines of communication open and, hopefully, again, bring that issue to resolution. But you have to put it in your own words, so that way you can say, well, this is what I told you on the phone, but that's not what you told the consumer. And so we take ourselves, kind of out of that
That's a smart thing to do.
awkward position. Yeah. So,
Yeah. I have to agree with that. I don't want to get in the middle
Right.
of somebody else's fight.
So, and we don't, some people send in pages and pages and they want all their documentation. And really we say, summarize your issue. It helps.
Right.
Keep it to the key points. Some things are complicated. And as a business owner, it really shouldn't take that long to respond to a complaint, honestly. So
Yeah,
it's
most
whether it's a
complaints can be
priority or
summarized
not.
pretty quickly.
Right. And many, and some people are surprised, when they get the complaint, say, this person never contacted me. They
Right.
never told me there was an issue with my window.
Oh my goodness.
And it's not a prerequisite. I mean, we encourage that, contact the business
yeah.
first. Let them know you're having an issue. And if they really are not returning your calls, if they promised you they'd refund you and didn't give you anything back, then you can come to BBB. You don't have to do that.
Yeah.
We encourage it. And some business owners will say, this person never told me there was a problem. We said, well, they don't have to, but we're telling you there's a problem now. And it's really in your best interest, and the reputation of your company for you to try to address it.
Oh, that's very interesting. I wouldn't even occur to me not to ask the business
You'd
if
be
something was
surprised.
wrong.
Yeah.
I can see people like that. They don't want confrontation. They want a third party to handle it.
Right.
I
sometimes they don't-
could see it, but
Right.
I just wouldn't occur to me.
Well, you're a good consumer.
Well, the first thing I do is call, hey, by the way, the window's not working right.
You're
What's the
taking
deal here?
responsibility as a consumer.
Probably because my wife said the window's not working right. So it's like, oh, there's no happiness in this house. You better fix this right now. But that's, I think that's part of it is you want clear communication. I think most disputes come from not clearly communicating your side. I mean,
think so.
just in general, right? Whether it's
or
business or
not
personal.
listening.
Right. Well, yeah, we're not communicating.
Because I can say it to you, but if you're not listening to me and you don't care and you don't
Correct.
care to resolve my issue, then
right.
So that's
Right,
going to
right.
inflame the situation. Absolutely.
Yeah. So once we come to a common ground, and then I guess this is a part. If I, let's say my window thing, and they say, I'm going to go fix it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do we wait until it's fixed before you close it, or are you saying they've agreed to fix it, so it's done?
It depends.
How do we know? I mean,
Right.
Because if I say as a business owner, I'm going to take care of the window, and the consumer's like, okay, great, they're going to take care of the window, and 6 months later, nothing's happened. Nobody showed up.
Right. Well, and usually we wouldn't wait that long.
Then I'm not happy, right?
So,
My
a
window
lot
still
of
doesn't
times,
work.
we'll say, be specific. We'll fix it
Okay.
within the next 30 days. We'll
Gotcha.
try. If they don't,
Gotcha.
so we'll say, okay, we'll close it out for the time being. But if,
Okay.
let's say, if a month goes by and that's, reasonable, or if,
Sure.
unless it's a seasonal type of business
Right.
and they'll, I can't come fix your pool until it's open
Okay.
again in, the summertime, then you can come back to us as the consumer and say, look, they promised it. And again, they didn't do anything. And if
Okay.
we had assumed it was a resolved complaint, in that case, it would change it to an unresolved complaint. And then again, it would lower the business's rating.
Okay, so there's a little
you
bit
can
of back
revisit
forth.
it, yes.
I can see how some of these things may go on for a little bit of time.
Right. Yeah. We try and have 30
Yeah.
days. Sometimes
That's
it goes
reasonable.
back
Most
and
things
forth,
can get
but we don't
fixed
want it
in
to go
30
back, forth, and like a
Right.
tennis tournament that it just.
So
we'll
what's kind of
fix
the
it. We
average
didn't-
size of complaints, like the value of these things? I mean, are we talking
Dollar-wise?
Yeah, I mean, are we talking like small claims court? Or are we talking like huge?
Oh, it can be-
like you put my addition in the wrong place. So you gotta move the whole thing over.
The least expensive one. This isn't recent, but I had somebody complain that they wanted the price of their stamp reimbursed.
Their stamp?
Their postal stamp.
Oh, it's a forever stamp. They wait long enough. It has some value. Oh my goodness!
And
Seriously.
we go up to
Wow.
purchases of cars, again, home remodeling, an addition
Yeah.
on a home where that's beyond what you could do in small claims court. So it really runs the gamut. It depends.
So I'm getting this. I'm gonna get what. So your sectors are. I'm hearing construction and cars, because that seems to be the ones that when I talk to people, they say that's where they tend to grumble when they're like fixing their house, or they're putting a kitchen in, or they're buying a car. They're all that's when people tend to you hear grumble stories.
Right. And service industry related, I think, is just a little bit more prone to, open to complaints
Sure.
because you're, somebody's,
Well, it's a
labor
high
with their
dollar
own two
amount,
hands. It's
right?
a high dollar amount.
Yeah, if I buy a
and you're
hamburger
talking
and don't
about
like it, I'm not
manual
gonna-
craftsmanship.
Gotcha.
So what I think is acceptable, you might not think is acceptable, even though it passed inspection or something, something like that. So,
Well,
but
how do you resolve that, like quality of work? Because I know workmen like,
Right.
job.
Sometimes it's obvious.
all
And
right,
if
yeah.
we have an arbitration hearing,
Sure.
say, and we do an inspection of the actual work,
Right.
it might be obvious to the arbitrator, like, yeah, that's clearly not a level counter, or, the cabinets
Gotcha.
are crooked, or clearly I can see there's a gap in the window and the wall.
Right,
So,
right,
and other
right.
times it might be, is this consumer just, incredibly particular, so that's,
Yeah.
some of it is open to
Yeah, I know people that are pretty,
interpretation.
they'll see something, I don't even see it. They're like, well, it looks pretty good to me.
Right,
It's
pretty
like,
good. Yeah, well, you don't have to live with it.
Right. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I guess.
But we run the gamut. I mean, it could be, we
Okay.
have complaints about cell phones and, electronics purchases and online purchases. And,
Okay.
I say we go from accountants to, yoga studios, and we cover
Wow.
everything in
Well,
between.
you're supposed to chill in the yoga studio. Let's
Yes.
not have
Unless if they bill you improperly, though, it could be an issue.
could ruin the yoga session for
Yes,
sure.
Not very zen.
All right, so when we come back in a minute or two, we're going to talk about accreditation, and Odessa is going to join us in the conversation. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're listening to Master Your Finances, and we have Melissa Companick is here. She's been talking to us, but now we're going to shift gears a little bit to accreditation, and this is Odessa Santiago's area. So you want to tell us a little bit about what is the Better Business Bureau accreditation, and why should somebody care about what that is?
Well, for starters, businesses work hard to earn their customers' business by treating them with respect and delivering quality of service and outstanding products. And in order for a business to have that logo, they went through 8 very, very important principles that we want to kind of share in the marketplace. They don't just open a business and boom, they get a rating.
Okay.
They have to go through 8 principles in order to get that accreditation.
So these are kind of like best practices that business owners really should be doing, and you're kind of like laying out, hey, you've agreed to do what really is the right way to do business from a consumer perspective, right?
Yes.
So once I've kind of done these 8 items, then actually, especially as a new business owner, I'm thinking all businesses, yes, but as a new business owner, maybe I was working for a Fortune 500 company, now I'm going to go into business for myself. I go, this is easy, right? I know my business, but being a business owner is very different than being a W-2 employee. So maybe they need to learn some of these basics. So I would think an accreditation would be a huge plus as far as learning like best practices, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And consumers, consumers are getting smarter, and they want to do business with people that are, starting with trust and advertising honestly and telling the truth.
Because darn millennials, they research everything. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
My daughter's one. It's like,
So from a business standpoint, you went into business, you care about, your craft or your product or your services that you're putting out there in the marketplace. So how do you convey that to the consumer?
Right.
You get accredited through the BBB, get our backing. And in order to do that, you have to establish and maintain a positive track record in the marketplace.
Okay.
Because we start with trust, so we hope our businesses also start with trust.
So positive track record, does that mean maintaining a good rating kind of thing? Or is that the overall,
Yeah,
like not like a low complaint situation,
yeah,
resolutions are good?
No complaints.
Okay.
You've been in the marketplace for
Okay.
at least 6 months or more.
Okay.
You want to advertise honestly.
Yeah, you should.
Establish standards of advertising and selling, and adhere to our standards as well.
Okay, so that's the next one, right? I want to make sure I'm
Yes.
getting your 8 principles.
Yes.
So the second one is like advertising.
Honestly.
So what are some basic guidelines? I mean, I know in my industry, we have regulations, so it's kind of like you better not do it wrong, or they're going to come down on you. But I mean, as a general business person, maybe where they don't have regulations like some of us do, what are some items that you might mention to them?
Well, for starters, tell the truth.
That's a basic good. That's a good one. I like that
Yeah.
one.
Reveal all related conditions, exceptions regarding products or services offered. Be transparent.
Yeah.
Openly identify the nature, the location, and ownership of the business, and clearly
Oh, interesting. Identify the location. Okay.
Yes. Clearly disclose
Important
all
for
policies.
online.
Right. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can't tell you what websites I go to. There's no like location. Like,
Right.
where are you?
It's a red flag. It could be a red
Where are
flag.
you? And
Yes.
I don't do business with them. Trust me.
Good.
Like, I don't know
Yes.
if I don't know where you are. I'm not going to do business with you.
Share that message.
Right.
You want to
Yeah.
disclose all policies. You
Okay.
want
All policies, sure.
to guarantees and procedures that bear on a consumer's decision to buy.
Okay, so you like disclose up front like what you're going to do. So as a
Yes.
contractor, you're going to write it all down, and like I said before, you want it in writing.
Always
here's what
get
we're
everything in
agreeing to.
writing.
Yeah, well, that's a basic thing. If you're talking about any dollar amount, you want it definitely in writing, right? So that's great. So all policies and procedures, right?
You want to honor promises.
Yeah, I like that.
You want to abide by all written and verbal agreements.
Okay, honor the agreement. Okay,
Then
got
honor
it.
the agreement.
Okay.
You want to be responsive.
Oh, and be responsive.
Be responsive.
Okay, so how do you identify responsive? How do you quantify that? Is it like within 2 seconds, or is it like
No.
within 2
So-
days, or is there some kind of rule about what's considered responsive?
So just address marketplace disputes.
Okay.
Like I said, we give you 30 days. to-
Okay, well, that's pretty reasonable. That's extremely reasonable. Okay.
At the BBB, we respond within 1 business day. So
Yeah.
Oh,
So we
A+.
lead by
We'll give you an
example.
A+ rating. Phoebe gets an A+ rating. So,
You want to also safeguard privacy.
oh yeah, that's like a federal law. You better do that.
Yeah. Only collect personal information only as needed. Protects any
Right.
data collected against mishandling and fraud.
Mm-hmm.
And respect the preferences of consumers regarding the use of their information. So
Okay.
if you're a business that you gather personal information, you have to kind of do your best to protect that information that consumers are giving to you.
Right. So when you say like their preferences, like what you do, 'cause I mean, in our case, are you like the last things? Are you sharing it with affiliates, things like that?
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And
Because some
let
of us
the
will own
consumer
multiple
know that.
businesses. If you own multiple businesses, are you going to use that in multiple ways? Which some people do that. They don't really tell you.
No. Yeah.
Right? But
Yeah.
they-
So they have to be upfront with that, with
Okay.
the privacy policies and stuff like that.
Okay. Does Facebook comply? I know they seem to collect an awful lot of data. So I'm just
That I
kidding.
can't answer.
We don't
you're
know.
not in New Jersey,
They're
so
probably listening to us right now, so I've been flagged. So I'm going to get tracked now. Yeah, right. No, but so honestly, so yeah, so that's to me that's a huge thing nowadays because we as business owners collect a lot of data and it really never goes away.
That's yes.
Especially if you're in a compliance business where you're not allowed to let it go away. You have to keep it permanently. So you have to make sure you're managing it correctly so you don't even accidentally like transfer it somewhere where it's not supposed to be. And then if you do, I know sometimes when we've like restarted emails or something like that, every once in a while an old like list will get thrown in there that you really didn't intend and you got to clean it out because somebody's like, hey, wait, you're not supposed to be contacting me. That was like 15 years ago. Like, oh, sorry. Then you just get rid of it, right?
Right.
I mean, it does happen where accidentally data gets misappropriated unintentionally when people transfer systems and things like that. But as long as I think you're pretty quick to respond, I know most people are okay with it. You just stop, right?
Right.
Just listen to me.
Yes. And
Right.
and just embody integrity.
Integrity.
That's integrity is not something you do. It's part of who you are.
Right.
And just live out integrity in all business dealings. That's kind of what we hold those businesses to. So consumers know that if you're dealing with a company and they have that BBB logo
Right.
of accreditation, that's definitely someone that kind of embodies trust
Right.
that they're going to do right in the marketplace and they're going to do right by the consumer.
That's good. I mean, that's interesting. I mean, because some business, I find this interesting in certain ways because some of the financial services, we can't ask for a referral. We can't publish testimonials, I should say. You can't. That's what I meant to say. Testimonials. But in the mortgage business, you could, as an example. So people can do a testimonial on a mortgage transaction, but they can't do a testimonial based on how you're managing their assets. That's not permitted. And you can see why, because that's probably, we had a good year in 2019. Oh, this person's wonderful. They got me, gazillion % return.
Right.
And then next year you have a crash and they're like, well, we're just not going to put those out there, So, I mean, certain business you're not allowed to slip. But if you had people know that you have certain certifications that you are paying attention to people constantly, I think that's important.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, that's why a lot of us gets, certifications that say, hey, you're going to manage things a certain way. And the BBB, that's essentially what you're doing for all businesses, right?
Yes.
So because car dealers don't really, as far as I know, do they have, I don't know if they have something similar
There's
to
no licensing.
Yeah. So we don't have, like I'm a certified financial planner. So if I make a mistake, they're going to like come down on me like rocks, right? So you want to do the right thing anyway. But if I'm a car dealer, it's really just up to me to kind of self-manage my reputation.
Yes.
And honestly, this one's like, I've been to like every dealer with a certain manufacturer in the area, and I literally drive an hour to get my car worked on now, specifically because of the reputation of the dealer.
Yeah.
I literally drive by 3 dealerships on the way there.
Wow.
Yeah, so I mean, to me, this is huge because even though it's probably costing me more to go there because of all my time and travel and all that, I know when I leave, it's done right. And if there's an error, it's fixed. It's no like conversation. They just do it. Which is wonderful.
Priceless.
Well, it really is because, I don't really want to deal with this, arguing with you over like $10 or $100 or whatever it is. I just want you to be honest with me and tell me what's broken and you're going to fix it correctly. And if something else happens, things do happen. Be honest with me about what just happened and let's talk about it.
They've established trust with you.
Yeah, don't try to like, pull hoses out and say, oh, by the way, you need a whole new blah, 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 blah. You're like, no, I don't. Don't do that stuff to me, all right? So, I mean, that is huge. And you see that they grow.
Yeah.
And, I mean, they do.
Yeah. And definitely businesses that have that seal, they, it's all about credibility.
Right. And this is one way to make sure they're credible. So when they get it, they'll have like you see the Better Business Bureau, like some businesses that are retail, they'll have like the sticker out there. So, from that perspective,
yes.
They can put the logo on the website.
Yes.
So there's lots of ways that they can find it, or you can just look them up on the site, the bbb.org, right?
Also, yes, consumers visit our site,
right.
Looking for a plethora of products and services. So from a business standpoint, if you don't have that big marketing budget
right.
or, people don't know who you are,
right.
This is one place you're going to get seen and
right.
As well as having the accreditation, you're out there, you're credible, and consumers are, they know where to find you.
Excellent. Yeah, it's important. Reputation is important. I'm glad you guys are doing it. Anything else you want to say, Melissa, before we go?
No, good.
You're excellent. You're good. You're fantastic. No, you guys did a great job. Odessa, Melissa, fantastic. I appreciate it. Yeah, BBB's fantastic. You guys have been around a long, not you particularly, but the businesses. BBB's been around a long time. 1912, that's amazing. I didn't realize it was that old, but yeah, it's important to do the right thing. So you've been listening to Master Your Finances. I am Kurtis Baker, a certified financial planner professional. You can reach me the website. You can listen to this podcast and all the podcasts at masteryourfinances.us.